All right. Well, let's go to this final question here. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Kevin in San Jose.
Are those not the words? I always thought I sing this out loud whenever they do school plays.
What is
A breakfast at Tiffany's.
What is the difference between what is the difference between a booker and a producer? I've heard these terms over the years and they sound exclusive and used interchangeably. Can you differentiate between the two?
I'm trying to figure out way too clearly and concisely, and of course that's shot to already. The booker would be the person who is determined that Brian and Jim are going to face each other at WrestleMania. And the booker has determined that Jim is going to defeat Brian, because what other finish could you call? And the booker has written the TV show leading up to promote this, where Jim and Brian are going to have a promo that's going to devolve into a physical angle to set the match up. That's what the booker has done. But then the producer, after the production meeting, the producer either, if it's a match, it's going to be one of the trusted, old wrestling hands, or if it's an interview, it may be one of the younger whippersnappers. But the producer is going to sit down with those guys on that TV show where they're going to have that interview and shoot that angle. And they're going to say, hey, now they've got writers, so everything's written, but traditionally the producer would kind of go over it with them again. Remember, he did this to you and you did that to him. So you're mad about that. You're going to talk about that. You're going to talk about this. Hey, he'll tell them where the camera is going to be. If there's any props going on, he'll produce that individual segment to make sure there's nothing that's forgotten. Do they need a fucking contract signing table? And then on the physical part of it, or if it's a match, the producer would sit down with them and help them work out a match that makes sense and know where the spots were going to come, where the commercial breaks would go, and then help them work out their finish, knowing that, well, this guy does these couple of moves good and this guy does these things good, and we could work that together. Just brainstorm with them and put their presentation together, and then either go sit in the truck with the director and the producer, the main producer of the show in the truck, or sit at the gorilla position on IFB so that they can tell the TV truck, hey, coming up here in a minute, he's going to do the big dive on the left-hand side. Don't miss it. That's going to be your break spot. Or he's reminding them that as soon as they say this line in the interview, so-and-so is going to pull a blackjack out of his pocket and fucking bash the other son of a bitch over the head, to make sure that we don't miss the shots and that everybody understands what's going on in the truck that they're shooting. That's what the producer does. That's a simpleton's overview of it. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Do you think booker is even a term that can be applied to anything nowadays in terms of how, well, I guess with AEW, there's firmly a booker, but with WWE, is there a booker, or is it more like the Bill Watts, Bill Dundee dynamic, but a lot of Bill Dundees?
No. Well, in the WWE, it's more like, I think they've finally got the writers in line where they know the kind of flavor of the product, and Triple H is getting what he wants, but he doesn't have to put every single goddamn word on paper.
For instance, if Road Dogg is the head writer of SmackDown, is he a booker?
No, well, that's what I'm saying. There's no booker per se, but there is some level of booking structure, but there's no individual booker. Triple H is the overseer of a lot of individuals. With Tony, yes, he calls himself the booker, but he's in a worse position because he's got a bunch of other people doing shit they want to do. It's the talent. It's just that he doesn't have a structure where there's clear control over them. And even if you're letting John Cena and Cody Rhodes do mostly what they want in the ring, you would still have one of your trusted producers, because that's a money match, sit in and make sure that he knows what they're going to do and that you know what they're going to do before it gets done. And that doesn't have, so in the smaller companies, I'm sure there's bookers still, but very few in the traditional sense where The booker was in charge of the wrestlers, who was hired and who was fired, the house shows, what the cards were and who went over, and the TVs, who was featured, who was pushed, and how and who went over. And there's nobody with that level of control over that many things anymore, probably, in this business. And that's why the promoter had to worry about running the business and paying everybody and making a profit. He had to worry about renting the buildings, getting the TVs and the TV stations and the newspaper and his publicity and his local promoters all pulling the same rope, and then sit back and his booker ran the talent. And that was all you needed. Now you you need a lot more shit than that.